Hi, my name is Sadia Munir Hamad. I am presenting my Coetail 11 final project, American Wars and the Just War Theory. This is the Galileo Gifted School for Learning, a charter school in Sanford, Florida, where I taught 8th grade US history as a guest teacher. Please note that due to privacy and security issues, no students were allowed to show their faces during interviews in this project. I followed the Summer model and aimed to reach the redefinition stage by connecting the 8th grade students to other classes in their school and a parent exhibition. They would formulate concrete proposals on an ongoing conflict with US involvement, example, the Yemen War. I designed this unit based on the launch design cycle by John Spencer and A.J. Giuliani. The L is for look, listen, and learn. The A is for ask a ton of questions. The U is for understanding the problem, the N is for navigate solutions, the C for create a prototype, and H is for highlight solution or fix. The essential questions I wanted the students to consider were that there are different perspectives to any conflict, that there are costs of any conflict, and do the costs of conflict outweigh the benefits? And last, is war just? I launched the design cycle by having students look, listen, and learn about wars and start empathizing. I used Wakelet to curate pictures of various conflicts. The two most powerful pictures are shared here. On the left is that of a US Marine who finds out that the body bag on his right is his best friend during the Gulf War, 1991. On the right is 5-year-old Umar Daknish, who was dug out of rubble after an airstrike in Aleppo, Syria in 2016. After discussing all the images of conflict shared on Wakelet, students responded to the question, "What do you see?" on a collaborative answer garden. These are their responses. From the second Wakelet page, I would like to share the following. The Batman video on the left is thought-provoking as it shows how children use fantasy to escape the grim reality of a refugee camp. Similarly, the poem, The Boatman, left the students silent. It is a recount of a Syrian taxi driver's story who is now living in New York. Caroline Forche is a witness poet and writes about true events. For the second stage of the launch cycle, Ask a Ton of Questions, students chose to either use Poplet on the left or MindMeister on the right to brainstorm further questions about war while working as partners. I organized all the student questions in 4 categories: facts, causes of war, effects of war, and perspective, different points of view. Students would later choose 3 questions to answer from each column for their extended research project. After generating class questions, we watched the documentary Love Anyway by Preemptive Love. Preemptive Love was founded by an American family living in Iraq when the Gulf War started. While helping their Iraqi neighbors, they grew into an NGO/donor group that now works in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and other war fronts in the world. Preemptive Love has chapters across the world that spread a message of tolerance and acceptance in different communities. We now move to the stage Understanding the Problem from the launch design cycle. On a Padlet, students share their responses with a thinking routine: what I knew, what I know now, and what I wonder. After their responses, the class had a heated discussion based on Logan and Atwell's response. Logan saw the needs of refugees as being similar to his own needs. On the other hand, Atwell considered the Iraqis and other displaced persons as parasites feeding off foreign aid, especially from America. For a deeper understanding of the cost of war and different perspectives, I reached out to the local Oviedo Orlando Preemptive Love chapter. They suggested asking 5 questions. 1. What does home mean to people in love anyway? 2. How do wars begin? 3. What are the effects of war on society or a group of people? 4. What does peacemaking mean? 5. What does peace mean to you? I have shared a response by a student, Justin. He chose to cover his face with his own image.
So home means a place of joy and safety, and the people in the Preemptive Love video and people affected by war who lose their homes want to go back to their homes. because they want to feel that safetyness and happiness again, but they can't because their homes are destroyed. And speaking of wars, the way war begins is there's a smaller conflict that escalates into a larger conflict that eventually escalates into a war. And war affects people by losing, by homes being destroyed, loved ones being killed, and just all hope is being lost for these people affected by it. And then the ways to prevent war is to remove conflict from areas or prevent conflict from escalating any higher, or being peace, or be a peacemaker. And a peacemaker is making peace is basically removing conflict, and undoing violence is basically rebuilding off of the ashes and stepping stones. And what peace means is a happy time where nothing bad is happening. And to practice peacekeeping is to practice keeping conflict out of an area.
In the launch design cycle, Navigating Ideas, students first worked as partners to answer 5 W questions: why, what, when, where, and who, for 5 American conflicts of their choice. Second, from these conflicts, they chose 1 conflict of interest. And third, they explored this conflict in the extended research project with a just war lens with an assignment sheet, project, slideshow, and oral presentation rubric. This is a picture of the 8th grade US history class working on their extended research project at Galileo. I introduced the just war theory to give students a lens to navigate ideas in the launch design cycle and analyze the war they had chosen for the extended research project. Students were introduced to the CARP, contrast, alignment, repetition, and proximity concepts from Kerry Lee Beasley's Apple book, Design Secrets Revealed, to make better slides. The class session also covered using digital images from Unsplash, Creative Commons, the Noun Project, etc., and giving credit to all of them. After the student presentations of their extended research projects, we had a break of 3 weeks from school. After 3 weeks, I only had 1 week to finish the unit virtually due to COVID-19. All the virtual school was done through Wakelet, Loom Instructions, Padlet, and Flipgrid. The students examined the Vietnam War more closely from American and Vietnamese perspectives and the just war theory, which they recorded in a Flipgrid. All their virtual week lessons led to the end lesson of creating a prototype in the launch design cycle. In this Padlet, they shared their 5 rules for a just war if a student believed a just war was possible, and if they did not believe a just war was possible, then they shared 5 measures for peacemaking. The next step in the launch design cycle was highlighting the issue. I had planned for students to work in groups of 3 and come up with concrete strategies for a just war in an ongoing war such as the Yemen War, or peacemaking if they did not believe a just war was possible. Working collaboratively, they would show their findings either digitally or through a product. It would be shared with other classes in school and an open exhibition for parents, school board, etc. But we did not get a chance due to COVID-19 virtual school. This student survey was taken after the unit about the apps that were used in class. It shows students enjoyed using Padlet and Flipgrid the most. This is followed by Wakelet and then Poplet. What app do you think you will use again in the future was a question from the student Google survey. 35% of the students stated that they would use Flipgrid in the future, 30% stated that they would use Padlet, and 20% stated that they would use Poplet again. Only 15% stated that they would use Wakelet, though that was part of their extended research assignment. No one stated that they would use MindMeister. This is a student reflection from Charles Bravo, an 8th grade US history student at Galileo, who was allowed to answer questions by my host teacher, his legal guardian. Charles was asked the following questions, and the reflection took place a week after the unit ended. Please note that the students chose the emojis to cover their faces by themselves.
I think the technology that we use in this unit made it better because it made it easier and fun to learn. I do not think this unit should have had more technology because it would have made it more difficult to learn. The last lesson was a good ending to the unit because it was fun to learn about the just war theory. What I would do differently in this unit is learn more about the Korean War because it is a very interesting war and I do not know much about it. I did like learning in this way because it made it not boring and easier to learn. I think other subjects should teach this way because in other subjects it is very boring to learn and I do not take in that much information because I get distracted.
Upon reflection, I needed more class time to finish the launch design cycle. Also, a prior knowledge of student academic abilities and skills would have been helpful in planning lessons. Third, student absenteeism meant repetition of lessons. Fourth, not being able to contact students by email was a hindrance. However, I was able to address all 4 essential questions. I was also able to hit part of the ISTE standards of being a leader, citizen, collaborator, and facilitator. My growth during Coetail. Coetail has made me dive fearlessly into the less charted waters of technology to search for critical thinking, collaboration, tolerance, and skill building as an educator. I am a learner for life who realizes that pedagogy is best served with the helping of technology to involve students as decision makers in their future.